welcome the night and its dreams. Lina was only 6 when the word orphan became her identity. After losing her parents in a tragic car accident, she was thrust into the care of her relatives. To the world, they appeared like saints, taking in a helpless child. But behind closed doors, Lina was nothing more than a burden, and worse, a tool. Her aunt, a woman with an icy smile, paraded Lina around as a prop in her sob stories. "We're struggling so much to give her a home," she would say to anyone who'd listen. Donations poured in. New clothes, toys, and even cash filled the house, but Lina never saw any of it. Instead, she wore tattered hand-me-downs and ate scraps while her cousins feasted and played with her gifts. By the time Lina was 12, her uncle had found other ways to exploit her. He forced her to do grueling housework, threatening to send her to an orphanage if she refused. When charities or neighbors visited, Lina was coached to smile and say how grateful she was. The lies tasted bitter, but the fear of being thrown away again kept her silent. One day, a social worker named Miss Grace visited unannounced. She had piercing eyes that seemed to see right through the masks people wore. Lina hesitated but eventually spilled everything: the abuse, the lies, the betrayals. Her relatives tried to deny it, but Miss Grace had heard enough. That evening, Lina left the house with nothing but a small bag and a faint glimmer of hope. She was placed in a group home where, for the first time, she wasn't just a pawn in someone else's game. Years passed, and Lina grew into a strong, independent young woman. She excelled in school and later became a lawyer, dedicating her life to helping children who had been exploited like her. Each case she took on felt like reclaiming a piece of her stolen childhood. One day, she walked into a courtroom and locked eyes with her former aunt and uncle. They were on trial for fraud, accused of exploiting another child for financial gain. Lina stood tall as she testified against them, her voice steady and unyielding. As the gavel struck, sealing their fate, Lina felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had been used, betrayed, and discarded, but she refused to let her past define her. She wasn't just an orphan anymore. She was a survivor, a fighter, and a beacon of hope for those who needed it most. And this time, the victory was hers. After the trial, Lina stood outside the courthouse, staring at the sky. It felt surreal. The people who had once controlled her life were now powerless, their deceit and cruelty exposed to the world. She thought she'd feel triumphant, but instead, a quiet sadness lingered. No amount of justice could erase the years of pain, yet it was a start. As the months went by, Lina focused on rebuilding her life, not just for herself, but for others like her. She joined forces with Miss Grace, the social worker who had saved her, to create an organization called Phoenix Hope, dedicated to supporting children in abusive or exploitative situations. They provided legal aid, counseling, and safe spaces where children could find refuge and begin to heal. One day, as Lina sat in her modest office, a knock came at the door. A young girl, no older than 10, stood there clutching a worn stuffed rabbit. Her name was Ellie, and her story mirrored Lina's in haunting ways. Lina knelt down, looking Ellie in the eyes. "You're safe now?" Lina said softly. Ellie hesitated before throwing her arms around Lina, tears streaming down her face. Lina held her tightly, remembering the fear and isolation she once felt. In that moment, Lina realized that every child she helped was another piece of her own heart being mended. But healing wasn't linear. At night, Lina still battled memories of loneliness and betrayal. Sometimes she questioned if she would ever fully move past the scars her relatives had left behind. One evening, as she was flipping through an old photo album she had recovered from her parents' belongings, she came across a picture of her mother holding her as a baby. "Your heart is too big for this world." Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. That night, Lina made a vow. She would honor her parents' memory by living with kindness, courage, and resilience. Years later, Phoenix Hope became a nationally recognized organization. Lina had touched countless lives, but the true measure of her success wasn't in awards or accolades. It was in the smiles of the children she helped, the light returning to their eyes. One evening, as Lina prepared for an event celebrating Phoenix Hope's 10th anniversary, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. She no longer saw the broken, scared orphan she once was. She saw a woman who had risen from the ashes, carrying not just her own pain, but the hopes of so many others. As she stepped onto the stage to deliver her speech, the crowd erupted into applause. Lina took a deep breath, her voice steady as she began. We all carry stories of pain, but we are not defined by what was done to us. We are defined by how we choose to rise. Today I stand here, not as a victim, but as proof that even the darkest nights end in dawn. Together, we can be the light for those still searching for their way out. The audience rose to their feet, and as Lina looked out at the sea of faces, she felt something she hadn't in years. Peace. The orphan who had been used and betrayed had become a symbol of hope, a living testament to the strength of the human spirit. As the applause faded, Lina stepped off the stage and was greeted by Ellie, now a vibrant teenager and one of Phoenix Hope's brightest success stories. Ellie had found her voice and purpose in the years under Lina's guidance. She had gone from a shy, scared little girl to an outspoken advocate for children's rights. "You are amazing," Ellie said, her smile lighting up the room. Lina ruffled her hair affectionately. "I just told the truth. The real magic happens because of people like you." Ellie's eyes sparkled with pride. "I want to be like you someday. To help kids like you helped me." The words struck Lina deeply. She saw in Ellie not just her own past, but the promise of a brighter future. Phoenix Hope wasn't just an organization anymore. It was a movement, carried forward by those it had touched, reconnecting with the past. One evening, after a long day at work, Lina received an unexpected letter. It was from a woman claiming to have been a friend of her late parents. Lina's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a heartfelt message, along with photographs of her parents she had never seen before. The woman, Maria, wrote about how much Lina's parents had loved her and their dreams for her future. "They always said you'd change the world," the letter read. Tears streamed down Lina's face as she stared at the photos. For so long, her parents had been a distant, aching memory. Now they felt close again. Maria invited Lina to visit her, and a week later, Lina made the trip to the small town where her parents had grown up. Maria greeted her with a warm embrace and shared stories about Lina's parents, how her mother used to sing her to sleep and how her father would sketch silly cartoons just to make her laugh. They spent hours reminiscing, and Lina felt a sense of connection she hadn't realized she was missing. Before Lina left, Maria handed her a small box. Inside was a locket with a picture of her parents on one side and a tiny engraving on the other. "Forever in your heart." Lina clutched it tightly, feeling an overwhelming surge of love and gratitude. The journey continues. Back at Phoenix Hope, Lina hung the locket on her office wall, a silent reminder of where she came from and the people who had shaped her, even in their absence. It became a symbol of resilience, a testament to the idea that even in the face of profound loss, we can find strength to move forward. Years turned into decades. Phoenix Hope expanded globally, with centers in countries where children faced unimaginable hardships. Lina continued her work tirelessly, but she also found time for herself. She traveled, wrote a memoir, and even adopted 2 children of her own, giving them the love and stability she once craved. On her 50th birthday, Ellie, now a lawyer and director of Phoenix Hope, threw her a surprise celebration. People from all walks of life attended. Former foster kids, social workers, donors, and volunteers. Each of them had been touched by Lina's mission in some way. As Lina stood at the center of the room, surrounded by laughter and joy, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her journey had been one of pain and betrayal, but also one of healing, growth, and purpose. That night, as she looked out at the stars, Lina whispered softly, "I made it, Mom and Dad. Thank you for giving me the strength to keep going." She knew her story wasn't over. It was still unfolding in the lives of those she had helped and would continue to help. Lina had transformed her pain into a legacy of hope, proving that even in the darkest times, light could be found and shared.